Well, European nations have just voted unanimously to boycott the World Cup. Now, that's if World Football's governing body, FIFA, goes ahead with a plan to sell stakes in the tournament to private investors. The project, which has been floated by FIFA President Gianni Infantino, would be financed by a company with family ties to Donald Trump's advisor and son-in-law, Jared Kushner.
Defending his plan to sell investors part of the World Cup's commercial rights, FIFA President Gianni Infantino described it as a golden opportunity.
More revenue returned to the member associations means more investment in better pitches, stronger national teams and more pathways for young girls and young boys everywhere in the world.
He has set a deadline of September 19 for FIFA's 211 member associations to support the scheme, promising them millions in additional funding. The strongest opposition is coming from Europe's association, UEFA. It sent most of the quarter-finalists to the recent World Cup, including the champions Spain. UEFA said it was against FIFA's attempt to enrich itself and its friends. The head of Germany's Football Association, which manages the national team, said the plan would fail without European support.
I believe it sends a disastrous signal to open the FIFA World Cup to outside investors. Football depends on the acceptance and support of society, and we must not allow it to become a plaything for investors.
But smaller associations like here in Cape Verde could be tempted by more money to boost their facilities. The head of the Confederation of African Football has told its members to consider the offer. Associations from Asia and North and Central America were upset about the lack of consultation, but haven't rejected the idea. South America's governing body is yet to comment. There's a Trump family connection too. One of the potential World Cup investors is owned by Joshua Kushner, brother of Jared Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law. US media reported the president could nominate Infantino as the next United Nations Secretary General, prompting this response from the White House.
I don't know if he and the president have discussed that. I haven't been present for all their conversations. I know they speak quite frequently, and the president has a lot of respect for Gianni and what he has done with FIFA.
Others have less respect. Some fans fear the recent World Cup, with its political interference and advertising-friendly breaks, may have kicked off a new era of commercially controlled football.
Well, joining me now is Miguel Maduro. He's the former chairman of FIFA's Governance and Independent Review Committees. Mr. Maduro, it's good to have you with us. You've seen the news just like we have. UEFA just voted 55-0, unanimous, to boycott all FIFA tournaments, including the World Cup. Now, this is unprecedented, and it sends a clear message. What's FIFA going to do?
I think that there is a real good chance of being able to block this project of Gianni Infantino and the current leadership of FIFA. I think this position by UEFA is the right position, is an unprecedented position, but I think there's a good possibility, not because by itself the number of football associations that compose UEFA will be enough to block the decision to go ahead with such a project, but because of the economic importance of having the European teams in the World Cup. Without the European teams, the World Cup decreases its value, and so even the object of this project will see, in terms of commercial value, being damaged. And as such, I think UEFA may have indeed taken a step that will be sufficient to block this initiative.
Mr. Maduro, UEFA is, of course, the wealthiest part of FIFA. With this vote today and with what you're saying, the message here is when it comes to world football, money talks. What UEFA wants here, it's going to get.
Well, there's two readings of the position of UEFA. There's a more benign one. UEFA is standing up for the good of the game, for the integrity of the game, putting a limit to the hyper-commercialization of football, Football and the World Cup should not be only about maximizing profits. There are other interests, such as the well-being of athletes in terms of calendars, such as making the competition accessible in terms of ticket prices to as many fans as possible. And so UEFA can say that they are taking this position to protect that, or there's a less benign, a more cynical reading of the position of UEFA, that is to say what UEFA is concerned with is with the commercial value of its own competitions and its own commercial projects. UEFA, together with the EFC, ran, for example, the Champions League, that is the most profitable competition of clubs. And the project of FIFA was certainly going to put into question the economic value of that initiative of UEFA itself. So it may be that in part too.
Is there a fear maybe here in Europe within UEFA that if this plan does go ahead, then you're going to have other regions of the world, other members of FIFA that will become wealthier with this private investment, and that you may have a shift of power within FIFA?
There may be that, but I think the main concern from that perspective will be that of the impact on the commercial value of UEFA's own competitions, from the Euro Championship to the Champions League. They are the most valuable, and particularly the club competition are the most valuable. And if FIFA will go ahead, for example, the World Cup of Clubs that FIFA is promoting probably will become much more competitive with respect to UEFA. So UEFA may be concerned with that. And that's why I want to make a point, if you allow me,
Sure.
that it's very important. I think it's very important, the indignation and outrage that this initiative of FIFA has raised in Europe. But it is important that the outcome is not simply blocking this initiative. I would hope that this will be the step that is necessary to introduce genuine reforms in how sports governing bodies act, including FIFA, but UEFA itself.
Well, I want to talk about that in just a moment, but let me ask you, the fact that this plan with private investors is connected in some way to U.S. President Donald Trump and Jared Kushner, his son-in-law, is that what has generated this very allergic reaction here in Europe? I mean, if this was a plan, yeah, I mean, if this was a plan that had nothing to do with Trump, would it go through easily?
Yeah. It has contributed to it, for sure. But it's not the only thing. I think in itself, opening to private investors the commercialization of the World Cup was going to be an additional step on something that unfortunately is already taking place, that is the prioritization of the World Cup as a profit-making activity, and ignoring or not paying as much importance to other interests, such as those that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, the way the entire process took place, the lack of concentration, the lack of transparency, and the apparent conflict of interests on giving at least a priority in negotiating this deal with people that are close to Mr. Trump certainly has contributed to the additional backlash and to the opposition to this project.
Mr. Smith, let me ask you before we run out of time, you say that you would like for this to trigger general reforms within FIFA. You were brought in after FIFA's corruption scandal to help enforce reforms, and you know how that went. I think, you were there, about less than a year.
Less than a year.
Yeah, I mean, I've got 30 seconds left. Are you confident that basic reform within FIFA is possible right now, particularly under the current leadership?
Not from within. It will have to be imposed from the outside. My hope is that the European Union and the European Union institutions will use this opportunity to introduce real reform that is necessary, separating the regulatory role from the commercial role of FIFA and introducing genuine checks and balances.
Okay, well, we will be watching, and hopefully we can speak with you again, because I think this story is going to have some long legs on it. Mr. Maduro, thank you.